Welcome to our video presentation on the analysis of selected cases under Section 3, 5, and 6 of the Civil Law Act 1956. This act plays a vital role in the Malaysian legal system by bridging the principles of English common law and equity with the unique needs and context of the Malaysian legal framework. The Civil Law Act was enacted to address an absent in written law, or also known as lacuna, particularly when it comes to civil matters that were not specifically covered by local statutes. Since then, this act has served as an essential tool for judges in Malaysia, enabling them to apply English common law principles in cases where there is a lacuna. However, as society and legal issues evolve, the applications of these provisions continue to be a subject of great importance. In this video, we will dive into the analysis of three key cases that demonstrate how Malaysian courts have used Section 3, 5, and 6 to tackle complex legal challenges. Let's take a closer look at these cases and to see how the courts navigate between the influence of English common law and the demand of local law. Our first case is CAS and MPPL and another. This case involves Section 3 of the Civil Law Act 1956, which governs the application of English common law and equity in Malaysia. The plaintiff in this case, CS, sought a declaration that he was the biological father of a child, C, born to the first respondent, MPPL, during her marriage to the second respondent. CAS applied for a DNA test to establish paternity. The court had to decide whether the courts in Malaysia had the power to order a DNA test on children under civil proceedings. The High Court dismissed the application, holding that Section 112 of the Evidence Act 1950 conclusively presumed the child's legitimacy, thereby precluding any inquiry into paternity. CS appealed the decision. The Court of Appeals held that paternity and legitimacy are distinct concepts, while Section 112 established a conclusive presumption of legitimacy. It does not bar inquiries into biological paternity. The court emphasized that determining paternity is a question of facts, whereas legitimacy is a legal status. Consequently, the court allowed the appeal and remitted the case to the High Court to consider the application for a DNA test. The judge, Faizah Jamaluddin, had applied the use of Section 3.1 of the Civil Law Act 1956, where in this case, the English common law is applicable. The courts in Malaysia, pursuant to its inherent jurisdiction as parent patriae, has the power to order the child to undergo a DNA test in order to determine the child's paternity, as there are presently no written laws in Malaysia governing the power of the court to order a DNA test on children in civil proceedings. This situation is also known as a lacuna, an absence of law. The stare decisis used in this case is the case of Tony Kwam Wei and the government of Malaysia and another. The federal court in this case held that common law is law as long as it remains in force, and that the mechanism that determines of whether it remains in force lies in Section 3.1 of the Civil Law Act 1956. The court had decided that the first and second defendant will bring child C to Hospital Tunku Azizah within 7 days from the service of the order on the first or second defendant, to enable the hospital to take all necessary steps to obtain specimen by intermediate or non-intimate means as decided by medical professionals from child C and the plaintiff, in order for DNA test to be carried out to determine the child's paternity. This case underscores the importance of English common law in addressing modern legal issues, ensuring fairness and justice.
Moving on for Section 5 of the Civil Law Act, we now have the case of PT Karya Semidang Indonesia and Ocean Masters Marine Services Sebrian Berhad and another. Let's start with the brief facts of the case. The case starts when plaintiff P.T. Karya, a shipper, entered into a contract of carriage with Sapphire Line Private Limited, who is the second defendant under this case, under Treehouse Bills of Lading. It was stated in the contract that the cargo containing steel wires could only be released upon production of the original bills. However, the cargo was released without it on arrival, which resulted a breach in contract. It was only then did the plaintiff realize that Ocean Masters Marine Services Sdn Bhd acted as an undisclosed principal to Sapphire Line, essentially someone hired to act on behalf of the agent but whose identity is not revealed to anyone. The plaintiff claimed that this breach of contract had caused them major financial loss and thus initiated a lawsuit against both defendants. However, both defendants argued that the claim the plaintiff made was time barred under Hague rules. The issue related to the application of common law and equity in Malaysia is whether the Bills of Lading Act 1855 is applicable to Section 5 of Civil Law Act 1956, and whether the plaintiff's claim is time barred or not under Hague rules. The court's decision held that the Bills of Lading is applicable to the Act and also agreed that the plaintiff's claim is not time barred. Reasoning for the first issue is that Section 5 Para 2 of Civil Law Act states that Malaysia applies English commercial law in the states of Malacca, Penang, Sabah, and Sarawak. This means that the law used in these states for matters covered by the Act is the same as the law used in England in similar circumstances. Where the first defendant had stated that the plaintiff had no locus standi, which is the legal right to make a claim or appear in court, to bring this action on the grounds that the contract between the plaintiff and the purchaser of the cargo is free on board. No Malaysian law can be applied, thus making it an absence of law. Then, the application of English common law of Bills of Lading Act 1855 can help resolve the issue. For the second issue, the plaintiff's claim is not time barred under the virtue of Article 3, Rule 6 of the Hague Rules, as the 1-year limitation applies only to actions arising during the period covered by the rules, which ends upon discharge of cargo. As seen in this case, misdelivery occurred after the discharge. For stare decisis, the court referred to the case of Peninsula and Oriental Steam Navigation Company Limited and others, and Rambler Cycle Company Limited, due to the fact that it established that the Hague Rules do not encompass delivery or misdelivery but cease to have effect upon discharge. This precedent supported the court's decision that the misdelivery claim was not time barred under Hague Rules. In the end, the overall judgment ruled in favor of the plaintiff, finding the defendants liable for the misdelivery of cargo, and the claim they made was not time barred under the Hague Rules, or awarded damages to the plaintiff for financial loss caused by the defendant's breach of contract and duty of care. Finally, for the case focusing on Section 6 of the Civil Law Act 1956 is Peter Chong and another, and Khatijah binti Muhammad Ibrahim and another, personal representative of the deceased and another suit. This case involved the dispute over the sale of undivided shares in a piece of land held by two Muslim sisters, Aisha and Khatijah, as joint tenants. The land was originally gifted to them by their late father. Later, Aisha entered into separate sale and purchase agreements with the plaintiffs in both suits to sell portions of the land, and they have paid prices in full and took possession of their respective portions. However, before completing the transfer and giving the registration of land to the plaintiffs, Aisha passed away. The issue related to the application of common law and equity in Malaysia is whether the application of joint tenancy in the English law is allowed in this case, and whether the late father's gift of land to his daughters as joint tenants was subject to Islamic law, or better known back then as Muhammadan law. The court decided that it is not applicable in Malaysia according to Section 6 of the Civil Law Act 1956. The court also examined the validity of the creation of the daughter's joint tenancy under Islamic law. The reasoning for the first issue is that the application of joint tenancy of sisters after the demise of both the father and the eldest son was not applicable according to the Act on Immovable Property, where it states that the law of England regarding immovable property cannot be applied in Malaysia. This includes the law of tenure, assurance, conveyance, and succession to immovable property. For the reasoning for the second issue, the court's analysis concluded that the father's gift of land to his daughters as joint tenants was consistent with pre-existing Islamic legal principles. For the stare decisis of this case, the court considered previous decisions that addressed the intersection of common law and Islamic law in property matters. In the end, the overall judgment held that joint tenancy, the plaintiff's claim in both suits for specific performance, declaration, injunction, and damages to or in lieu of specific performances, are not attainable by law.
To wrap things up, these cases demonstrate the vital role of the Civil Law Act in bridging the gap between English common law and Malaysia's own legal system. Through Section 3, 5, and 6, we see how the courts in Malaysia has developed a nuanced approach to resolving legal issues that involve complex intersection of local and foreign legal principles. The application of English common law allows Malaysian courts to adapt and respond to modern challenges where local law may be insufficient. By analyzing these three cases, we gain valuable insights into how Malaysian law continues to evolve and adapt to new challenges. The Civil Law Act remains an important part of an evolving system. It ensures that the court can maintain fairness, justice, and consistency in the application of law. Thank you for watching, and we hope this analysis has provided a deeper understanding of the role of the Civil Law Act in shaping Malaysia's legal landscape.